Imagine walking alone through an abandoned forest. No people, no roads, only wind and silence. You take one step forward, and suddenly, your foot hits something hard. A sound. Not stone, not wood, metal. You kneel down, you clear the soil with your hands, and you see it. A piece of an ancient chest, rusty, heavy, locked. And for a moment, your heart forgets how to breathe because you realize something terrifying. Someone buried this and never came back to take it. Now let me ask you a question. How many treasures like that exist in the world right now? Not in fairy tales, not in video games, but in real life, hidden under castles, buried in caves, sunk at the bottom of oceans, lost in tunnels beneath ruined cities, treasures that were stolen in war, hidden in panic, and then swallowed by history. And what makes these treasures even more disturbing is not just their value, not just the gold, not just the diamonds, but the story behind them. Because every lost treasure is a crime scene, a mystery, a moment where something went wrong. Someone ran, someone betrayed, someone died, and something priceless disappeared forever. But here's the twist. Sometimes the treasure doesn't disappear because no one can find it. Sometimes it disappears because someone doesn't want it to be found. Maybe it holds secrets. Maybe it exposes names. Maybe it proves things that powerful people wish remained buried. So let's go deeper. Picture this, a palace filled with jewels, its walls shining with amber and gold. Then suddenly, soldiers storm in. They don't steal one painting. They steal a room, a whole room. They dismantle it, panel by panel, and load it into crates. And then, the war ends. Cities burn, and the treasure vanishes. Like a ghost. No remains, no proof, only rumors. And hunters, decades later, still chasing shadows. Or think about a ship, loaded with gold stolen from a fallen empire. The soldiers are running, the streets are burning, people are screaming, and they carry the treasure into the night. But the gold is too heavy, it pulls them underwater, and the treasure sinks into darkness, where it stays for centuries. But someone always remembers, someone always searches, because treasure isn't just money, it's temptation, it's obsession, it's madness. In fact, history is full of stories where people lost their minds for a single map, a single clue, a single rumor. Men betrayed their brothers, kings executed their allies, pirates killed their own crew, all because of one belief: if I find it, I will become untouchable. And here's what makes today's story even more fascinating. We're not talking about small hidden coins. We're talking about treasures worth hundreds of millions, maybe billions. Treasures that could change someone's entire life overnight. Treasures that still have believers, still have researchers, still have secret archives, still have missing documents, and still have unexplained deaths connected to them. So ask yourself, what if one of these treasures is hidden right now under a place you've already walked past? What if under your city there are tunnels, vaults, sealed doors that no one dares to open? What if inside one of them there's a chest, untouched, waiting not for a king, not for a pirate, not for an army, but for a stranger in the modern world? And that stranger could be anyone, even you. Today, you're going to hear the stories of 5 legendary treasures. Treasures that were real, treasures that were seen, treasures that were stolen, and then never found again. Some were lost in Nazi fire, some disappeared with secret societies, some sank with empires, some vanished inside royal betrayal, and one may still be buried in pirate land, guarded by nothing but legend. But I warn you, once you enter this world, you will never look at history the same way again, because you'll realize the past isn't finished. It's not dead. It's only hidden. And sometimes it returns. So let's begin. Imagine a room, not decorated with gold, not covered with marble, but built from something far rarer. A room made of sunlight, a room made of amber. They called it the Amber Room. And many historians still whisper the same sentence. It wasn't just a treasure, it was a miracle. Because this wasn't simply furniture or jewelry. It was an entire chamber, walls, panels, ornaments, made from amber, gold leaf, and gemstones, crafted so perfectly that when candles were lit inside, the room didn't just shine, it glowed like fire trapped inside stone. A treasure born in Europe. The story begins in the early 1700s. Prussian artisans, among the best in Europe, were ordered to create something no one had ever seen before. Not a throne, not a crown, but an entire room made of amber panels, carved, polished, and fitted together like a puzzle. Each panel was covered in golden detail, and the room felt less like a palace hall and more like a sacred place. A place too beautiful for war, too beautiful for human greed. But history doesn't care about beauty. It only cares about power. A gift that became Russia's pride. In 1716, the room was given as a diplomatic gift. Prussia presented the Amber Room to Russia, and soon it was installed in the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg. That's where it truly became legendary. Because Russia didn't just display it, they transformed it. More amber, more gold, more gems. The room became larger, brighter, richer. Visitors described it like stepping into another world. Some said, it felt like entering a room made of melted sun, and for more than 2 centuries, it stood there, a masterpiece, a symbol of imperial beauty, untouched, unchallenged, until the day the world collapsed into war. 1941, the Nazis arrive. In 1941, Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa and invaded the Soviet Union. The German army advanced fast, too fast. The Soviets tried to evacuate the palace treasures, but the Amber Room was different. It couldn't be moved easily. It was fragile, huge, delicate. Trying to remove it would destroy it. So instead, the Soviets tried to hide it. They covered the amber panels with wallpaper. They tried to camouflage it, a desperate attempt to make the Nazis overlook it. But it didn't work, because the Nazis were not just soldiers. They were collectors, looters, treasure hunters in uniform. When they entered the palace, they knew exactly what they were looking for. And when they discovered the Amber Room, they didn't see art, they saw victory. They saw a trophy, a room stolen like a weapon. What happened next is almost unbelievable. German specialists arrived, and they dismantled the room. Not like thieves in a rush, but like surgeons, panel by panel, piece by piece. They removed the amber walls, packed them into crates, and shipped them away. Imagine the horror. A room that took decades to build, stolen in days, and then transported to Königsberg Castle in East Prussia. There, the Amber Room was displayed again, like a stolen crown on an enemy's head. Visitors came, Nazi officials admired it, and the treasure, the eighth wonder, survived. But now, it belonged to darkness. And then, it vanished. But the war turned. In 1944, British bombings hit Königsberg. Fire spread. Buildings collapsed. In 1945, the Soviet army was closing in. The city became chaos, panic, evacuation, and in this confusion, the Amber Room disappeared. Some say the castle caught fire and the panels were destroyed. Others argue amber burns easily, meaning even one explosion could have erased everything. But there's another theory, the one that keeps treasure hunters awake at night, that before the Soviets arrived, the Germans packed the crates again and hid them in underground tunnels, in secret mines, in sealed bunkers, or on a ship that vanished in the Baltic Sea. No one knows. No confirmed remains were ever found. Only fragments, only rumors, only shadowy documents, a treasure that still haunts Europe. To this day, the Amber Room remains one of the greatest missing treasures in human history, because if it still exists, hidden somewhere underground, It would be worth hundreds of millions, maybe more. But even beyond money, it represents something deeper. The idea that history can swallow miracles and never give them back. And here's the scariest part. If someone found the Amber Room tomorrow, it wouldn't just be a discovery. It would be proof. Proof that in the middle of war, in the middle of fire, someone managed to hide the sun. Imagine an order of men who were not just soldiers, not just monks, but something far more dangerous. They were a system, a secret network, a brotherhood, a military force with faith in their hearts and steel in their hands. Their name was the Knights Templar, and for nearly 200 years, they became the most powerful organization in Europe. But here's what most people don't realize. The Templars weren't only famous for fighting in the Crusades, they were famous because they got rich, unbelievably rich. The warriors who became bankers, the Templars, were created to protect pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem, but soon they became something like the first international bankers in history. Imagine this. A pilgrim wants to travel from France to the Holy Land. If he carries gold with him, bandits will kill him. So the Templars offered a solution. The pilgrim could deposit his money at a Templar fortress in Europe, receive a coded note, and withdraw the money later in Jerusalem, a medieval banking system. And it changed everything. Because suddenly, the Templars were holding the wealth of kings, nobles, merchants, even the church. And wherever they went, they built fortresses, strongholds, hidden vaults, and secret chambers. They didn't just control swords, they controlled gold, the treasure of the Crusades. Now imagine the Crusades, cities burning, temples being looted, relics being stolen. And in the middle of all this chaos, the Templars collected treasures. Some were payments, some were war loot, some were holy relics claimed from ancient ruins. And over time, rumors grew darker. People whispered that the Templars had found hidden treasures beneath Jerusalem, that they dug under the Temple Mount and discovered something ancient, something forbidden. Some say gold, some say sacred artifacts, some say lost knowledge. And this is where the legend began. The Templars were no longer just knights. They were keepers of secrets. And in history, anyone who keeps secrets eventually becomes a target. 1307, the night everything collapsed. It happened suddenly, like a nightmare. Friday, October 13th, French King Philip IV had a problem. He was drowning in debt, and his biggest creditor was the Knights Templar. They had money, power, land, and influence, more than the king himself. So Philip did something brutal. He launched a surprise attack. Templars across France were arrested overnight, accused of heresy, tortured, burned alive. Their leader, Grand Master Jacques de Molay, was dragged into prison, and Europe watched in horror. But then something even stranger happened. When the king raided Templar headquarters, the treasure was gone. No gold, no silver, no relics, no vault full of riches. Nothing. As if the Templars had vanished their fortune into thin air. The treasure that escaped. How? How does the richest order in Europe lose its treasure overnight? That's why this story still haunts historians today. Because witnesses claim that Templar ships left their ports just before the arrests. Ships that disappeared. Ships carrying sealed crates, hidden chests, and possibly the entire fortune of the order. Many believe the treasure was smuggled out to Scotland, because Scotland was not fully under the Pope's control at the time. Others believe it went to Portugal, where the Templars survived under a new name. And the most extreme theory says they fled across the Atlantic, long before Columbus, and hid their treasure in the New World. That's why some treasure hunters search places like Oak Island, believing Templar gold lies beneath. Not just gold, something worse. But here's what makes the Templar treasure terrifying. Many believe the real treasure wasn't gold. Gold is just money, and money doesn't create fear like that. So why did kings, popes, and armies move against them? Some historians believe the treasure was evidence, documents, secrets. records of debts and corruption that could destroy royal bloodlines. Others believe it was something spiritual, artifacts taken from Jerusalem, relics that could shake the church, and maybe something too controversial to speak aloud, because the Templars didn't just die, they were erased, like history wanted them forgotten. But legends cannot be killed so easily. The treasure still waiting, even today, in Europe's forests, under ruined castles, inside sealed crypts. People still search for the Templar treasure. Some die digging, some lose everything, because obsession becomes stronger than logic. And that is why the Knights Templar remain immortal. Because somewhere, there may still be a vault, untouched, silent, filled with Crusader gold. But if you ever find it, you might discover the truth. Some treasures were hidden to protect them, and some treasures were hidden to protect the world from what they contain. And now, after everything you've heard, after the stolen sunlight of the Amber Room, after the silent escape of the Templars, after empires collapsing under the weight of gold, we arrive at the most disturbing truth of all. These treasures didn't disappear by accident. They disappeared because history is violent. And when the world is burning, people don't think about art. They think about survival. They think about power. They think about hiding what they can and running. That's why these treasures feel almost alive, because each one of them carries a final moment, a moment of panic, a moment of betrayal, a moment of death. Somewhere, a soldier sealed a wooden crate and whispered, "Hide it. No one can ever know." Somewhere, a knight buried a chest beneath cold earth and swore, "Even if we die, the secret survives." Somewhere, someone drowned under the weight of stolen gold, and the treasure sank into darkness forever. But here's the part that keeps people obsessed. We still don't know where they are. The world has satellites, radar, technology, and yet these treasures remain invisible because the past knows how to hide, and sometimes it hides in places we would never dare to search. Under ruined castles, behind sealed tunnels, inside sunken ships, or beneath cities where millions walk every day without realizing what sleeps below. So let me ask you something. What if one of these treasures is still out there, right now, untouched? A chest that hasn't been opened in 700 years, a diamond that still waits in silence, a room of amber still glowing in the dark. And what if the person who finds it is not a king, not a general, not a billionaire, but an ordinary human who simply stumbled on the right door? Because that's what makes lost treasure stories so powerful. They make you believe that history still has secrets left. And sometimes those secrets can be found. But maybe the real treasure isn't gold. Maybe the real treasure is the truth about what happened in those final moments, when these priceless things vanished. And that's why people keep digging, keep diving, keep risking their lives, not only for money but for the feeling of touching a piece of history that the world thought was gone forever. So, which one do you believe is still out there? Is it the Amber Room, hidden in a bunker, sealed in a tunnel, or lost at sea? Is it the Templar treasure, still buried beneath an old chapel, waiting like a curse? Or is it the pirate gold, somewhere on a forgotten coastline, where the waves cover the truth? Write your theory in the comments. I read them all, and if you want more hidden stories, more forgotten mysteries, more secrets buried under time, subscribe to the Enigmatic Veil, because history has many graves, but not all of them contain bones. Some of them contain treasure.